Hello.
Hey, Drew, it's AJ. How you doing, buddy?
Good, AJ. How are you?
Well, I've seen better hockey.
Yes, you have. You're watching pretty much any other team, but
Yeah.
it's early, but it's going to be too late pretty soon. So.
That's, you make a great point because it was brought up that since 05-06, and wasn't that the year that the Sharks got Jumbo?
Yep.
Yeah, so only 9 teams have qualified for the playoffs after being 4 or more points out of
American Thanksgiving.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, American Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
American Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yep, 70, I think it's 70-some%. Now, of course, St. Louis blew that out of the water last year, because they were last place in January. So,
well,
there is hope.
Yeah, there's hope, but Sharks are currently 6 points out, and, how many games need to be played before it's okay to hit the panic button? Who knows? So, aside from impressive special team stats, all the numbers are down, whether it's shots on goal, high danger chances, 5-on-5, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Erik Carlsson and Burns and Vlasic are combined minus 31. Looks like some guys are trying to do too much. Maybe none of them are all working on the same playbook. October is officially the worst month they've ever had with DeBoer. So I think I speak for most fans when I ask you, what in the hell is going on? Where do you focus to get this team back on track?
The longer I'm in the league, the more hockey I watch, I'm convinced that you have to do 2 things well. The 2 things have to be your tenets of your foundation. Number 1, you've got to manage the puck. You have to be able to make sure that you make the right play with the puck more times than not. That doesn't mean you're always going to put it on somebody else's tape. It doesn't mean you're always going to be making 20, 30, 40-foot passes or even the 5-foot passes. It just means keeping the puck out of the opposition's hand and not feeding them their transition game, or not feeding them opportunities, not making the game easy on them by giving them the puck in the worst possible places. And the second thing is you've got to have a real commitment to defensive hockey, to be playing good defense. And when I say good defense, it doesn't mean you're always in your zone, battening down the hatches, protecting the middle, and making sure there's no second or third chances or anything like that. Good defense is all over the ice. It's making sure off the face-off that you're getting the jump and you're getting position and you're getting underneath the stick of the opposition player, not over top, underneath. It means that in the offensive zone, you're on the forecheck and you're tenacious on the forecheck and you keep re-engaging on the forecheck and you keep the play down 200 feet from your net and you make sure that you're recovering. If you get beat in the offensive zone, you recover back to the middle and you recover on the defensive side. It means always having your nose over the puck. It means always having inside position. Now, it's not always going to happen, but you have to have a real commitment to wanting to play that way, to being on the defensive side. Now, those 2 things that I've described, has that been San Jose Shark hockey in October? No. Right?
Not at all.
Not at all. And one of the biggest things is when you watch the Sharks, and even though their overall numbers of giveaways, and I'm not big on the giveaway stat that is official, when you watch the game and you watch the number of the turnovers that the Sharks have in the worst possible areas, in areas that create offensive chances for the other team or grade A chances or absolute goals, the turnovers and the giveaways are killing them, absolutely killing them. And by the guys you mentioned Brent, and you mentioned Mark Edward, and you mentioned Erik Carlsson. Those guys now, plus minus. You can look at plus minus and go, okay, plus minus is a stat that if a guy's minus, like Jason. Remember Jason Moore way back in the days of our first teams. Jason Moore was like -4. Yeah. Jason Moore was like -40, but he was playing on a bad team. So it wasn't, he was like a -40 D-man all the time. But when you're looking at really capable guys who play terrific hockey offensively and are very, very skilled and very, very talented, they shouldn't be a collective -31 when you're your 3 highest paid defensemen.
Mm-hmm.
So their game is not even close to being where it needs to be a team that is threatening for the playoff spot. Again, is October, but you better hurry up before it's too late.
Well, and it's funny, obviously you focus at the defense, and there's a lot of fans, at least in San Jose, going back and forth about Erik Carlsson. Some saying he's the best in the game. He'll make a huge impact as soon as he finds his groove. And other fans are having buyer's remorse, saying he's a turnover machine that's weak in the corners. And I'm not saying that Karlsson isn't a great player, but is it a case of maybe he's just not a great fit in San Jose? I mean, how are you seeing this?
No, I think he can fit. He's talented enough that he can fit anywhere. He's talented enough and smart enough and good enough that no matter what team you put him on, he's going to fit. I did have an NHL general manager say to me, though, when we were talking about the Sharks, that you can have a guy like Erik Carlsson on your team, and he is a high-risk guy. He says, but I don't know if you can have two on your team, referring to Brent Burns.
Mm-hmm.
So can you have Brent Burns and Erik Carlsson, two high-risk guys offensively on your team, and still be a successful team? I think you can. They're a tad chaotic at times, and at times with Brent anyway, the less information you give him, the less coaching you give him, the better he is. Because he wears a lot of the coaching. Sometimes it just gets too much for him. And if he's a free-flowing guy, and that's just the way he is, so you take the good with the bad. And because the good far outweighs the bad. And Erik Carlsson, sorry, Halloween kids coming to my door and my dog's barking. With George's not happy with all these people coming to the door. But with Erik Carlsson, I think he's a more he's not as free flowing as Brent, but I don't think he's as tenacious as Brent either. So when I look at the both of them on the playing together, there are times when they get in each other's way when they have to be on the ice at the same time. So when you look at them, you think to yourself, okay, what can I do? But at the same time, the good usually far outweighs the bad. Like, for the one thing I'm going to say about Erik Carlsson, Erik was always an offensive guy. He was never a great defenseman. The one year he won the Norris, he was. But he was never a guy that you looked at and went, he's, say, Mark Giordano. He's Drew Doughty. That plays that hard, tenacious, tough defense. And before pump your brakes on Drew Doughty, I know what people are thinking right now. It was minus 34 last year. Yeah, we played on a bad team. Yep. So again, it goes back to plus minus is a stat that sometimes you can use and sometimes you can't. But with Erik, he was always, and most defensemen that are big money defensemen, big point guy defensemen, that's what they get paid for, is points. So you understand the guy going, well, I got to get points because that's why they're paying me, and that's why I have to concentrate and focus on it. But it's really hard for a coach to kind of turn that a little bit on its ear and go, yeah, I need you to get points without a doubt. I need you to play great defense though too. I need you to be just as interested defensively in the game as you are offensively in the game. You can't cheat offensively. You can't cheat defensively so you can get offense. You know what I mean? You can't try to take off out of your zone. You can't try to make that pass. You can't, ignore guys coming into the zone. You can't have your eyes focused on the puck area and have guys slip behind you in Ottawa for an easy tap in. You've got to get your head in the game. Now, again, just had a baby. What he went through with his first child. Mm-hmm. So unfortunate. So that's probably playing on him a little bit. So he's probably got some dad nerves out there, which is fine. I think he's good enough to get out of it. If you're having buyer's remorse at an 8-year deal in the first month, you need just to relax a little bit.
Yeah.
I do think that he's talented. I think he is talented, and that team is talented enough to get moving in the right direction. But AJ, man, they've got to change the way they're playing. They've got to be committed and not interested. Not okay, we'll be in the mix and we'll make sure we're a little bit tougher, we're a little bit more tenacious. You've got to be committed. There's a difference between being interested and a difference between being committed. To me, when you watch the good teams, it's a commitment to being on the right side of the puck, in the right places, all the time.
Yeah. Well, another thing that kind of plays into that, we talked about it last season, and unfortunately it continues, but Jones and Dell are ranked in, I think, the mid-40s on the goalies list, and if there were 100 teams in the NHL, that might not be so bad, but Sharks are 30th in scoring chances allowed, last in high danger chances allowed, so obviously team defense does factor in, but the bottom line is neither goalie is stealing games for this team and hasn't for a while. What would you want to see changed? What does Hedberg need to do?
Well, Dustin Schwartz is the goaltender coach with the Edmonton Oilers. And I talked to Dustin a lot. He's a really, really smart guy. And goaltending is a lot of times, coaching goaltenders a lot of times, it's just about refining the details. Goaltenders, there's no other player in the national, or players in forwards or defensemen in the National Hockey League that work on their game, work at perfecting the game like goaltenders do. They're out early, they stay out late, they face thousands of shots per month. It's a hard road for goalies. And goaltender coaches are coaches. They're sometimes big brothers, most of the time psychologists, and a lot of time just a friend. Because sometimes you've just got to let the goaltender go. Let him vent. Let him do what he has to do. Get off his chest. You've been talking to goals. You talk about high danger chances. When you look at the chances they've given up, there's been a few of them where I watch it and I go, I don't care who you are, you're stopping that, because just the situational turnover or something like that. When the goals that bother me when I was coaching, and bothered me as a broadcaster, are goals that go through guys. So when the goals are going through the goalie, go 5-hole, or go through the 7-hole, just above the pad and below the arm, and in that between the chest and the bicep, it's going to go through. And we've seen a couple of those in last game. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones that are disheartening. Those are the ones that you look at that sink a team's morale and sink a goalie's confidence. So Johan's a smart guy. Johan's a good, smart coach, and he's getting better and better every year. He hasn't been at it very long, but he is an ex-goalie with a good brain. And he will be working on the details, just getting back to, sometimes it's movement. Sometimes it's just a matter of turning and getting your shoulders square to the shooter. And sometimes it's a little thing like, do you golf, AJ?
I'm sorry?
Do you golf?
No.
Okay. Well, I used to work at a golf course. That was what I was going to do for a living. I was going to be a golf pro, and when you golf and you be out on the course and you striking the ball fine, but it's not going where you want it to. And you go back to the driving range and you talk to your pro at the time, or if you look at back in the day, you look at a buddy of mine we worked together, my best friend, and he would look at my swing and go, okay, you're doing this, or you're doing that. And it's just, sometimes it's a matter of just turning your shoulder back. Sometimes it's a matter of just that your hips are coming through too quick. It's all these little details, and it's a lot like goaltending. You're just trying to refine your position. So it's small little things that can lead to big mistakes. If you're overextending on a save instead of just pushing, squaring up, and bang, facing the shooter. Sometimes it's you're not following the puck. I asked Wayne Thomas, former Sharks assistant general manager, assistant coach, just served the Sharks so well, such a good man that he was coach. And I said to Wayne one day, we were talking about Evgeny Nabokov. I said, when do you know that Nabby? I said, what do you watch for when Nabby is playing? And when he's playing well and playing bad, what do you look for? He goes, his head. I said, you look at his head? He goes, yeah, his eyes. Is he following the puck? Is he finding the puck? Is he reading through the rush? Is he being able to anticipate and read where the puck's going next? Is he there before the guy is even getting the puck? He said, so a lot of it has to do with vision. A lot of it has to do with being in the game and concentrating and being detailed. So you fix that part first. And these guys go through a ton of video. They go through video all the time, and they'll be looking at the games, they'll be looking at the goals. And then you go out in the ice and you work on those things before practice. And during practice, it's hard to work on them, because during practice, the coaches, and this has been happening since time began, coaches don't make drills thinking about the goalie. It just doesn't happen. We were in Minnesota, the Oilers were in Minnesota about a week ago, and two former Sharks, Alex Strehlow, who I absolutely adore, and Dean Evason, an original San Jose Shark, who is one of my favorite people in the world. Dean's assistant coach now with Minnesota. And Dean's doing a drill at the end of practice with forwards, and Alex is not playing that day, so he's the goalie who's got to deal with it. And I can hear Alex, and Alex is such a great guy, and you remember Alex. Alex he's a chirper, man, and he's yelling at Dean Evason about this drill. And it's a horrible drill for goalies. It's a terrible drill for goalies. He basically ends up being twice a 2-on-0 in front of him and going from one side. And I can hear Alex yelling at Dean Evason. And I talked to Alex after. He goes, "Yeah, I always like to give him crap." Like, yeah, I know you do, but because we don't design drills in practice for the goalies. We design them for the other guys. So that's why you got to get up beforehand and work with your goalie coach. And I know that Johan's doing that. I know he's working with him, but it's a matter, I think, of physically refining your details and clearing the head. The one thing some goalies get in, right? I don't know Marty or Aaron at all, but I can tell you from past experience regarding goaltenders, when things start to go south, they wear it more than anybody. And sometimes they just need somebody to vent to, and sometimes they just need somebody just to listen to them. You don't try to fix it, just listen to them, let them clear their head, and then they'll breathe and they'll go back to work.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a long way of saying they're working on it. I know they are. That's what every goalie is. But they've got to stop the goals from going through them. Those are the ones that kill you as a team.
Well, it just reminded me of that playoff series against Vegas last season where Sharks, particularly Jones, did not look good through 4 games and then just went on the bus, disregarded the media, wasn't talking to anybody, and then put together a string of like the next 10 games where he was playing gangbusters. Yep. So,
yeah. And that's where, if you're a Shark fan, you take solace. Because you know he can do it and has done it in the highest pressure situations. So you don't worry about him. You know he will work on fixing his game, both physically and mentally. You know that he's going to be working his tail off to do it. What would bother me if it didn't bug him? What would bother me if he would be like, "I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I got my guy. What are you guys doing?" He's not like that. That's when the stuff I've read about him and talking to the Sharks assistant coaches, talking to people around the Sharks, that's not Martin Jones. He cares, and that's what you want from your athletes, and that's what you want them to do is be able to care and then put that into motion into fixing the problems. But you know what? What I like about a lot of goalies now and goalie coaches now, it's fix the problem, not the blame. You know, that's the issue.
Well, back in the day when Nabby would have a string of bad games, I mean, are you familiar with how Strehlow dealt with him at all?
Oh yeah, but Warren was a special kind of coach. You know, Warren and Nabby was a special type of goalie. I will say right now, in my estimation, there wasn't a smarter hockey player on the ice than Evgeny Nabokov. Evgeny Nabokov reads the game and read the game really well. And Evgeny Nabokov could break down his own goaltending performance better than anybody I ever met. Warren Strehlow was a father figure for Nabby. But Nabby, because Nabby would get on the bus, and Nabby then would talk to his dad after a game, and you could hear, that conversation. And Dad was not exactly, "It's okay, pal. You're still my number one guy." Dad was on him. Nabby was a goaltender that was very, very a high hockey IQ, really high hockey IQ. So he was really good at breaking down his own game. Warren and Nabby worked on basics. Man, they worked on basics. They worked on movement. They worked on being able to move but not overmove. Nabby would sometimes get in trouble with a little bit of overmovement. But Nabby, as far as positioning goes, was as sound as they came. And that's what they worked on a lot. But one thing Nabby he'll even tell you, in his one fault was when he dropped down the butterfly, he'd go right left. So a lot of guys drop down the butterfly, you're going to drop down just boom, right? He kind of would go right left or left right. And one pad would be up. So you remember the series against Chicago. How many 5-hole goals went in?
Yeah.
And that was because of that one little left right drop that he would do. But he worked on it. It was just a glitch in in his system. But overall, they worked a lot on basics. And Warren was a very gentle, but honest guy. Like I said, really like a father figure to everybody. And Warren had such a great reputation. But Nabby was a very willing student. Very willing. It's going to be hard for you're not going to hear me say very many negative things about Evgeny Nabokov.
Well,
he was one of my favorite guys in the world, one of my favorite goaltenders, and if just for a save here or there and some goals in the right situation, he would. They might be having already a championship ring in that organization, because Nabby was special to me. The only thing I didn't like about Nabby was he constantly called me Baldy. Baldy, hey Baldy, what'd you say? Baldy, what'd you say today? Baldy, what'd you say? So I said I talked about you because how bad you are. Baldy, come on, man, you don't know. And then he was such a one of my favorite people, such a funny guy, great energy, great juice for a goalie. Baldy.
Well, we spoke with Nick Nolenberger, who was the broadcaster for the San Jose Barracuda yesterday, and he said, you catch Nabby at practice, he thinks he's a forward now. He won't throw on the gloves. He's firing pucks at Cornash. He's, won't even come close to putting the pads on. He's all forward.
Couldn't play the damn puck when he was a goalie. Now he's all of a sudden he's playing the puck.
Yeah, right.
He's each other kid.
I think he's playing in Vancouver. He's going to score again, right?
Oh, you know that story, right? Okay, that's the one. I love Randy Hahn to death. Okay, Randy Hahn is the best, one of the best in the business.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that game in Vancouver, if you listen to that call, it's a historic call. First European goaltender to score on the power play. Right, it's a lot of firsts, but one of them was he scored on the power play. There was a power play for the Sharks. Anyway, so as Nabby goes out to play it, I think my commentary is, and I jump Randy on the commentary. I said he's going. I say something like he's going for it, and Randy says he shoots it, and I jump on it before it even. I said he's got it, and Randy, to this day, every time that replay gets played, well, not anymore, but when I was with him, when we played that replay, he would just turn and look at me with this sad look of disappointment, because that's a goal that an Emmy award-winning broadcaster like Randy Hahn will frame, and it'll be in the Sharks' vaults for time immemorial. There will never be another moment like that for the San Jose Sharks, and your loudmouth color commentator partner jumps all over your call going, he's got it. Randy's very rarely ever gotten mad at me ever in all the years we've been together. He's always just been so great. But there's that when that gets played, whenever it got played, when he and I were together, he would just turn and look at me with such sad disappointment in his eyes at what I screwed up on.
Well, there was actually a really good one that Jamie Baker had on the broadcast with Randy last season. Towards the end of the season, I'm not sure what Baker was focused on or whatever, but I think they were kind of previewing the schedule a little bit, and Baker said, yeah, and the thing that I think will benefit the Sharks is a lot of those home games coming up will be played at home.
No, he didn't. Did he really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We all kind of went like, wait a minute. Let me rewind that.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. That's a great one. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was listening to a broadcast. The other day, and it was you can't remember who was playing, but it was a 3-1 game, and the color commentator goes, and I'm not going to tell you what the color commentator was. The color commentator goes, well, this so-and-so team, they really want the next one because they don't want to go down by 3 again. Oh, okay, thanks very much. That's great insight right there. Good work, Jack. Way to go, man. That'll be on top of the game, man.
Well,
that's why I can't be a national broadcaster, because you come up with insight like that. And we say dumbass things all the time, man. It is sometimes, you know what it is with broadcasters? It's we feel like we have to fill time.
Of course.
We're so afraid of dead air. We're so afraid of letting the game breathe. I got to work with Bob Cole, the great Bob Cole from Hockey Night in Canada, and the man is a legend. I don't know. Have I told you the story about shutting the hell up?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so my 1 year at Hockey Night in Canada. So I leave the Sharks and go to Hockey Night in Canada. And Bob Cole's a legend. Bob Cole's called all the big games. Bob Cole called the Philadelphia Flyers. They're going home game. He's the best there is. Olympics. He's the best. Bob's fantastic. Broadcasting for 50 years, professional National Hockey League. And I get to work with Bob in Vancouver. And I'm really nervous going into this. And Bob says, Drew, this is my Bob Cole invitation, by the way. Drew, I know you have heard a lot about me. And, there's certain things I like. Let me just give you one piece of advice, young man. Don't be afraid to shut the hell up. Excuse me, Bob? He goes, you color commentators, you think as soon as we stop talking, I tell you guys, you think as soon as we stop talking, you've got to jump in. You don't. If you don't have anything smart to say, you don't have anything insightful to say, don't just jam in there with something. Just let the game breathe. Let the game breathe. Okay. And by the way, I got face-offs. I went, okay, Bob, you got it. But that game, Bob tells me that, and in the third period, the producer says to me, he said, well, we just wanted, hits the top, I goes, Drew. And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, we were just wondering if you're still there because we haven't heard much from you today. And I started laughing. He goes, thank goodness you don't get paid by the word. And I said, what's Bob Cole? What do you want me to do? It's Bob Cole. But that's the best lesson I ever got in broadcasting. Oh. Don't be afraid to shut the hell up.
Absolutely.
And let the game breathe.
Well, and I'm such a smartass. When I heard Baker's faux pas on that, of course, I took it, recorded it, posted it on Twitter, and tagged him with it.
Awesome.
And he was like, I feel like I've been on the air for 25 hours right now. Like he totally owned it, and it was fantastic. He took it great. And then about maybe 5 or 6 minutes later, they were talking about some upcoming game that was going to be played at home, and Randy, without missing a beat, going, yeah, and that home game will definitely be played at home.
yeah. Hodder doesn't let you slide on much. Yeah, he'll throw that in. He's one of the quickest guys ever on his feet, and if you're not paying attention, you will pay dearly for it.
Well, let's get back into the Sharks and move on to the forwards. The Sharks had a plus 31 goal differential last season, but they lost 38 goals from Pavelski, another 20 from Donskoy and Nyquist. Do you think that maybe Doug Wilson and the staff, did they maybe overrate or think too highly of the prospects that they had coming in? Because Donskoy, Pavelski, and Nyquist, that's a second line on most of the teams in the league.
Absolutely. No, Doug and his staff have made really good decisions on their prospects because they've been able to watch them closely. When they first moved the Barracuda to San Jose, I thought, you guys are nuts. You're putting two teams in that building? You're going against your own product? What are you doing? But it does. What it does, it gives them a close-up view every day of what's going on with that team and how those prospects are coming along, instead of once or twice, maybe 3 times a month. So it's worked out very well for that line, and you can't knock the guys that they brought up. What they did is they bet heavy on the defenseman. They bet heavy on Brent Burns. They bet heavy on Erik Carlsson. They spend I think more on defensemen than anybody else in the league, if I remember correctly.
That wouldn't surprise me. It's like $31 million.
They spend it. Yeah, 30. I thought it was like 34 million.
Well, I think if you factor Brendan Dillon into the equation.
Yeah. By the way, I was wrong on that guy, man. I was wrong on that guy. I used to think Brendan Dillon was a slug when he was in Dallas, and I thought when they made the trade with Jason Demers, I thought, oh, what are you doing, Doug? But that Brendan Dillon can play.
Oh, yeah.
He makes people. You don't see many guys nowadays that forwards are afraid to come down his side because the game's not played that way anymore. But Brendan Dillon still kind of is a little bit of a throwback. So I was wrong on that guy. He's impressive. I think they bet heavy on the defense, and they thought they knew, like, Doug's no dummy. Doug's been around forever. You knew you were going to miss Pavelski. You cannot not miss Joe Pavelski. But they went for Erik Carlsson instead. That was the decision they made. And the thought is you go from the D out, and that was the trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
So you miss Joe Pavelski's play on the ice. You miss his championship habits. You miss his presence in the locker room. You miss his character. You miss his professionalism. You're not going to replace it, but they knew that. They're not dumb. Don Scory and Nyquist. I get it on Nyquist. Don Scory I always liked him. I used to talk to I would talk to Randy about him all the time. He was just an impressive guy to me, and the way he played. So yeah, I think they miss him. Obviously, you miss those guys, as you said. They'd be at number 2 line. Some teams, AJ, they'd be at number 1 line.
Yeah.
So yeah, you miss those guys, and you miss and right now the scoring is being done by Evander, and who else?
Exactly. I mean, LeBanc scored in the last 3. How is Couture, Meyer, and Hertl so far off the score sheet lately?
Listen, Tomas, Logan is. I got a soft spot for Logan, and because he is such a good player, such a smart player, that it'll come. It'll kick in for him. It's going to happen for him. He's still going to be that guy. I have not liked Tomas's game at all. He was so good last year. Right out of the gate, he was good last year. And he was an important player last year for it. He's just not there right now. Or am I wrong? I mean, I watched all but 3 games of theirs. And every game I watched, I'm thinking, what is going on with this kid? This kid's an alternate captain now. This kid's a hell of a player. He's got all the talent in the world. But he's like minus 11 right now, too. I just haven't liked his game at all. Am I wrong on that one?
No, I mean, kid, I have loved him since day one. I mean, oh God, just there for the 4 goals against New York. I mean, it's just And he was an absolute beast last year. You could even go back, I would say, to that series against Edmonton after the Stanley Cup run. Yeah. Hertl, I thought, was one of the best players in that playoff series. So I don't know. I don't know. Well,
it's just it's you look at you go through year after year. Very few guys have consistent year after year after year of 30 goals and 70 points or whatever it may be, or consistent play of. There are ups and downs and peaks and valleys in every season with every team and every player. The key is, I believe, in the National Hockey League, is you can't stay in the valley too long. You got to work your way out of the valley back to the peak, and that goes for teams and that goes for individuals. But it's also a matter of, and I'm a big, and sorry to people in the Bay Area, but I'm a huge Bill Belichick fan of the way he does business. You watch the stuff online about the New England Patriots and how they do business. And Bill Belichick, say what you want about the man, but the man wins. And the man's got basically two tenets, which is do your job and attention to detail. Those 2 things. And I think if you, as an athlete, you live by those, and the New England Patriots do, and that's why they win all the time. They do their job, and they pay attention to details. And right now, I don't know if you can say that about certain players with the Sharks. Yeah.
Well, and I think that, I mean, do your job and attention to detail. That's not just sports, people. I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really isn't. You do those 2 things. And when you talk about attention to detail, I mean, Belichick knows every official on the field and which calls they like to make. And he's got them on a chart. And he lets his guys know that this so-and-so's line judge today, and he has called X number of holding penalties in the last blah, blah, blah. And all that is there. And he lets his coaches do their jobs, and they force the players to do their job. He says, do your job and attention to details. And the details, every detail you can think of is important.
Yeah. Only got a couple of things left for you. I hope it's not too long. But after losing those first 3 games, the Sharks went out and brought back Patrick Marleau. So, of course, we want to know what you thought about that move.
I was happy. I texted Doug Wilson right away. I said, way to go. Good for you. Patrick Marleau was too good to not be playing. He had a bad year last year. He had 16 goals. That's, you know how many guys want to score 16 goals in the NHL? It's hard to score goals nowadays in the NHL. We talked about the fact that what you missed about Joe Pavelski and what characteristics or traits he has. Patrick Marleau shares those same traits. He is a total pro. He is always ready to go. He never gets too up and too down, but he still has that fire burning hot. He is a San Jose Shark, and his presence means a lot. Just the mere presence of the guy in the room means a lot. But he can also still play because he can also get up and down the ice. And I was really happy to see it because Patty's a great man and a great pro, and I think it was the right move. And like I said, 16 goals on a bad year last year. He just couldn't find the net last year. He's the only plus guy in the Sharks right now?
I think you might.
I think he is.
Yeah.
I
think he might just
play less games, but he is. It's some of those things you lost with Joe Pavelski, you brought back with Patty Marleau. Now, without Marleau in and without Pavelski there, you had a big vacuum. Patty does a nice job of being able to come in there and just stopgap the feelings of where's our leadership. How is it? What are we? Who is our leader? Now, Logan's a leader, I know, and he's a great leader. Jumbo in there, Brent Burns. You don't have to have an A or a C to be a leader. You've got to lead, though. You've got to, again, do your job, and whatever that job may be, and lead that way. And nobody does that better than Patty.
Yeah, well, and you talk about leaders. I thought it was a little odd to see DeBoer hand out 4 A's this season instead of just the normal 2, but... Yeah,
I'm not sure. Here's the thing about captaincy in the NHL. I think it's overrated, but it's underrated if your team sucks. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
If your team is lousy, they're looking for leadership everywhere. So you've got to have somebody strong there. But the problem is, if your team's lousy, pretty much everybody in your team is playing lousy, and then you don't have that big of a voice. Your voice doesn't resonate in a room. Unless you say, the Edmonton Oilers the last couple of years. The Edmonton Oilers were a bad team, and 78 or 80 points the last 2 years. But they had 2 great players. In my opinion, the best player in the league in Connor, and a guy who's real close second in Leon, especially Leon scored 50 last year, and he's on pace for 50 this year. 2 great players. So even though the team was bad, these guys together got 221 points. So their voices resonate because they're doing their job. But a lot of times on bad teams, you don't want to speak up and say anything because you know your game's not where it should be either. So that's on bad teams. On good teams, you've got a group of guys. On good teams, you've got a lot of guys whose voices carry in the room. And with the Sharks, you got a lot of guys whose voices will carry in the room because of what they've done in the league so far. Mm-hmm. This year, not so much. And so sometimes guys are afraid to speak up and say anything because they know, oh, Jesus, I'm not playing very well. How the hell can I say anything? Why would these guys listen to me when I'm playing like garbage? And guys know when they're not playing well. Guys know when their game's at a level where it's got to get way better. So they don't want to speak up because they know if they're sitting in the opposite chair and some guy who's playing crappy starts going, "Come on, guys, we got to do this, we got to do that." They're like, "Shut up, man! What are you doing?" So it's the A's and C's. To me, it's an easy choice. Logan's your captain.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming. But you know what? Again, last time I checked, Peter DeBoer's coaching record was a lot better than mine. So I'll just let him go make the decisions way above my pay grade.
Well, hey, we're not calling this season at this point, year 2 at the Cow Palace just yet. But what can you tell Sharks fans to ease their minds after a horrible October?
I'd bring that up to you. You think 11-71-2 is bad? Come on, what are you talking about? We had 11 wins that year.
As long as we don't top it this year.
I think that listen, it's not the same team without a doubt. They're not as high scoring, high flying, and not a team that's going to outscore their mistakes. So they have to be a team that limits their mistakes. I know that there's, I read a lot of the comments online, even though I'm not a social media presence, that, about Peter DeBoer and about Doug Wilson and about this guy or that guy. I will tell you this. Peter DeBoer is an outstanding coach because Peter DeBoer gets players to own their situation. It's not about, with Peter DeBoer coaching behind the bench, it's not about Peter DeBoer. It's about the guys on the ice. And he has a knack of being able to have those guys accept ownership of their play and of the results and of the season. And that's a really unique trait in the National Hockey League. He's a brilliant, brilliant guy. And I like the way he coaches. I like the way he coaches a veteran team. So with Doug Wilson, I don't think you have to say anything about Doug Wilson besides show me other general managers in the National Hockey League who have had that much success in the NHL. Now, I had this discussion with some people in Edmonton because I was talking about Doug Wilson. And they bring up what? The average never won a cup. So I said to him, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have a team that won a cup or several cups decades ago and then hasn't made the playoffs for 13 of the last 14 years? Or would you rather have a team that's always in the hunt, always in the playoffs, always a team that's competitive and one of the teams you think, if they get the right breaks, they can win the cup. A team that's always there at the postseason. You know what the answer was? Unanimously, I'd rather have a team that's always a contender and always in the postseason. And you look at Doug's numbers as a general manager, you can't argue. Look at Doug's trades as a general manager. Most of the time, high marks for the trades he's made. And I got to say two names: Stan Boyle, Joe Thornton. That's enough. What those guys have done for that organization.
And then Brent Burns on top of it.
Yeah, Brent Burns for Charlie Coyle on top of that one.
Instead of,
yeah, you can just go on and on and on. So he wins most of his trades, and his teams win a lot of games. Managing and coaching aren't your issues. It's the way the team is playing. Now, that does come down to coaching and it does come down to personnel. But it also comes down to a veteran group accepting that they maybe have to change the way that they're playing this year as opposed to how they played in previous years. Because the team has changed, the makeup has changed, and they've gotten a little older. They're not as fleet of foot anymore. They've got some guys who can scoot, but some of their key guys aren't as fleet of foot anymore. But it's, again, go back to the two things. Go back to the two things. Manage the puck and defend. Be thinking, and you don't play defense in your own zone. You play defense in the offensive zone by keeping the puck on the forecheck, keeping the puck 200 feet from you. So for me, for Shark fans, it is, okay, October sucked. It was awful and didn't play very well. So again, it's early, but you better hurry up before it's too late. And here's my color commentator. Thank you, Captain August. To me, this next 10 days in November, the first 10 days in November, the first 5 games in November, they have got to be on their game. You got to be seeing some real growth in the way they're playing, some real progress in the way they're playing, or else then by the time they play the Oilers when they play the Oilers, like the 11th to 12th.
No, I'm sorry. The 12th.
I think 11th to 12th.
12th, yeah. And then the 19th.
Yeah. By the time they play the Oilers on the 12th, if they don't have their game closer to fixed than not, because it's never, you're just coaching, it's never fixed, then you can start to worry.
Okay, I'm marking that down.
All right, then.
And just to go back to something you had said, it only because it reminded me of some back and forth that we had, was because San Jose and the Dallas Stars kind of, for those who aren't aware, there's a little bit of tie between those two teams, and they both started around the same time, but that's who we typically compare them to, where it's the team that they won the cup in 99. I still say his foot was in the crease, but I digress.
But but thank God that they did it because it's the dumbest rule on the planet. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but they won the Cup in '99, and then since then, last 2 decades, Dallas, they've sniffed the playoffs a few times, but they were never a favorite. There were never really anybody that looked at, well, hell, I mean, at one point we were talking about, $13 million spent on goaltending between Lettinen and Niemi. I mean, there's been some rough sledding in Dallas, but that's who we've kind of pointed at. Would you rather be them, or would you rather be the Sharks that are just continually going? One year it's the first round, sometimes it's the second, sometimes it's the final, and then once it was a Stanley Cup final. What would you rather? And it's funny that you get about half and half of the responses. Is the one side that goes, no, I like hope every year, and there's the other side that just goes, I just want the championship once, and then they can suck for 40 years. I don't care. I just want it once.
No, those people are saying that lie. I'll tell you that right now. I can tell you, and I don't work for the Oilers. I work for Sportsnet. I work for a network, so I don't have that connection like I used to have with the Sharks. I can tell you right now, being in Edmonton, as I said, I work for Rogers. I don't work for the Oilers, but I can tell you those fans are as passionate and dedicated to that team as you can imagine. They're still the Gretzky, Lowe, Messier, Curry, Coffey, Fear jerseys out there, but they still follow this team. They are desperate for this team to just be a contender, to just be a playoff team. A successful season this year would be the Oilers to be a playoff team. They're watching Connor McDavid, the best player on the planet, be in the playoffs just one time. That's a crime against hockey humanity, that a guy like that has only been in the playoffs once. Those fans wear it, too. They love that team, and they are so heartbroken when the team gets an 80-point year, a 78-point year, like the last couple of years, after it looked like they had turned the corner with that season where they made the playoffs and went against the Sharks and then Anaheim. Those fans want a contender. That's all they want. They want to have some little taste of success where most nights you're winning and other nights, the other team happened to get you. Going through 13 or 14 seasons, I think it is now, or 12 or 13, they're heartbroken, and These are people who work 2 and 3 jobs just to afford. The oil industry isn't as good as it used to be because of the way things are in Canada nowadays. They're working 2, 3 jobs to afford to come to games. It's expensive, as you know, to go to hockey games.
Oh yeah.
They just want it. They just want a team that's a contender, a team that is going to be there in the end. And they appreciate the cups that were won years ago. That was years ago. That was decades ago. They want this team now that they follow and they spend their good money on to be a winner. And they would do anything to just have them have the chance to be in the playoffs. So those people say, I just want to win it once, and then that's it. They're lying to you. They're not lying to you. Yeah, they want them to win it, but at the same time, go through a few years like Edmonton has and then tell me you don't wish that your team was always a contender.
Well, you bring up the Oilers. They're off to a great start this season. What have you seen? What's been the difference between, McClellan and Hitchcock versus Tippett?
You know what they started out the season last year?
I can't imagine.
8-4-1.
Oh.
8-4-1. You know what they started out the season this year? 8-4-1.
So there's plenty of time.
Now it's 9-4-1 because they won last night. Dave hasn't done a lot. There's only so many schemes and so many systems. But Doug Wilson said this a long time ago. Every once in a while the class needs a new teacher or the class needs a new professor. It happened with Ron Wilson. It happened with Todd. And with the Sharks, it also happened with Todd in Edmonton. The one thing Ken Hitchcock found out last year was it wasn't coaching. You know what I mean? It wasn't coaching. It was personnel. Now, the difference this year, there's been a couple of differences. Now, but if you look at the Oilers right now, the same guys are doing the scoring. Last night, they won the game. Jujhar Khaira got a goal. He was the first player in the bottom 6 forwards to get a goal this year. The goals were being scored by Connor, Leon, and James Neal. The James Neal trade was great. For Milan Lucic went to Calgary. James Neal came to Edmonton. James Neal had 10, 20-goal seasons in a row in his career. Then he goes to Calgary as a free agent and scores 7 last year. didn't get along with the coach. Well, at least he and the coach didn't see eye to eye. He didn't get on the right situations. He comes to Edmonton. He leads the league in power play goals, I think, right now. And another one last night. He has 11 goals already. So that helps. But they still don't have scoring depth. The goaltenders have been better. Mikko Koskinen and Mike Smith have been battling, have been competing. There still is some holes in that team. There still is some areas they need to improve. But I don't think I have seen well, Connor's playing a hell of a lot. But when I watch Connor and Leon, they're getting to that point in their careers where they are prime. They are the best years of their career, and they do not. I saw them take over that Washington game a while back in Edmonton. I don't think I've ever seen a hockey player just absolutely take over a game like Connor did. It was, we're not losing this game. Get on my back. Let's go. And Leon, when that happened, Leon goes, all right, let's go. I got your 6. Here we go. And they were fantastic. So those two have been terrific. But Dave Tippett is, the way they play defense is a little different in the fact of it's real. He goes to it all the time. Back in the zone in a certain way. They're a little bit more protective of the middle. They put more emphasis on protecting that middle of the ice. Not terribly different from Todd, but more emphasis on it. Dave is a little bit more stringent on defensive hockey and puck. Well, those two things I talked about: puck management and attention to defense, making sure you play defense. And right now they're buying into it, but the jury's kind of still out on them. But there's a different feeling, AJ, this year with this team than there was the last couple. You can tell their energy in the room's different. There's a little bit more of a belief system in each other, or a belief in each other, I should say, a belief system, a belief in each other than the last couple of years. It's been pretty tumultuous the last couple of years in Edmonton with some of the personnel decisions that were made. And that's been settled down. Ken Holland brings a wealth of experience in winning, and there's more confidence with that team right now. And for the most part, they play like it.
All right. Well, finally, I mean, I would hope we'll talk again by the end of next month and see where we're at that point. But we talked about that game on the 12th versus Edmonton to take an eyeball as to where they're at that point. But, and again, I ask this because this is what, like you said, is being talked about a lot on social media, is at what point does DeBoer's seat start to get a little warm? And the reason why I ask as well is because a lot of people have pointed out that historically Peter DeBoer has always had a great first year with whatever team he's with, and then after that, meh. And so a lot of people are wondering, is it time that we start thinking about, and plus, Bugner is right there just in case this is the first time ever in Wilson's, history that we would think about switching coaches mid-season. And of course, everybody is pointing at the anomaly that St. Louis was last year where, hey, they were awful. They switched coaches. They put in a rookie goaltender, and people are looking at the rookie with the Barracuda right now who's sitting on 2 shutouts in 5 games. So when does DeBoer's seat start to get a little warm?
It's warm now. That's coaching in the NHL. It's warm now. Now, Doug is a very patient man when it comes to coaches, and he respects coaches as a general manager. And sometimes you don't get that from general managers. So I imagine it's warm now. I wouldn't presume to put myself in Doug Wilson's head, but there's some conversations going on now, and Peter knows the heat's on him. I would say that if they go through November and they are not better than they were this month, then it gets even hotter. And again, just guessing. Yep. But if they go through this month, and the one thing that people don't understand is Hasso Plattner. He's not a guy that suffers fools gladly. He's not a guy that sits back and doesn't care. He may not be around all the time because of his other businesses, but he keeps track of his team. And there'll be some phone calls going back and forth between the owner and the general manager. Doug being Doug will back his coach all the time, and he will be talking to Hasso about it. But if the big guy in Germany decides that he's seen enough, there's not much a general manager can do. It's the story of Harry Neal, and Harry Neal was the general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, and Roger Nielsen was the head coach, and Roger Nielsen they were losing. And Mr. Griffiths, who was owning the Vancouver Canucks at the time, wanted to fire Roger Nielsen. And Harry Neal was fighting for Roger. Harry being the next coach, he was fighting for Roger. And he, well, I think they're getting it. And, he's coming. There's a lot of good things happen. So they lose a game, and Mr. Griffiths makes the phone call to Harry Neal and says, Harry, it's time. You've got to go. And he goes, no, Mr. Griffiths, they were playing well. They're doing a great job. And he's really starting to get to him. A lot of good stuff. He starts going on and on about the good things that Roger's doing. And Mr. Griffiths said, Harry, it'd be a shame for two people to lose their job over this. The end.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Roger was gone. He was like, yes, sir. Hung up the phone, went to Roger's hotel room, knocked on the door. Roger, got some bad news for you. We're making a change.
Well, say at the end of November, things are not looking much better. You get a phone call from Doug Wilson saying, hey, are you available as an interim coach? What do you say?
Yeah, my record of being on the coaching staff, lost 100 games quicker than anybody in the history of the league, that is exactly what you want. You want a 57-year-old guy coming in right now and saying, yeah, okay, this is what I think we should do, guys. That call is going to happen. That would be a major mistake. That would be a big mistake. Although, you know what? To be truthful, I'd come in and crush it. You know it.
Of course. Absolutely. All you'd have to do is, hey, look at my frickin' tie, guys. You know I'm serious.
That's all you got to do. I would dazzle them with the wardrobe, and they'd look at me and go, well, hell, we got to listen to him. What's how good he looks.
This is all I'm saying.
But as Lyndon Byers used to say to me, I'd walk in the dressing room. Those back in the first year, I'd walk in the dressing room, double-breasted suit with the big 80s shoulders and lapels. I'd walk in, and LB would always go, "Man, you look good." And then he'd wait for a second, and he'd go, "From the chin down."
Nice. Well, as always, so awesome talking to you again. Thank you so much for the time, and hopefully we connect in another 30 days or so with talking about a much better Sharks team that have turned it all around.
All right, AJ. Good talking to you again too, Kyle. Talk to you later.
You got it. Take it easy.